Good morning. Welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Lorene Tanaka. We are here this morning with David Chang. David is a wealth manager. Interesting. And you're with the Art of Thinking Smart.
Correct.
Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Now, preparing for retirement sometimes seems like it's a long way off.
Right.
Well, we don't have to think about it now. But there are things that can be done at any age.
Correct.
How can we prepare for retirement better?
Sure.
How can we do
And
that?
I think retirement, you're right. A lot of people, especially if you're in your 20s and 30s, you're thinking about starting your family, maybe
Right.
buying a house, and it seems so far off. The thing with investing, however, when you look at how much it returns or gains or whatever, I'm using all these financial jargon here.
You're a wealth manager,
Yeah,
of course.
exactly, right. But to really kind of make it as easy as possible, how much you invest or how good your investments do are important, but not as important as time. And what I mean about time is Albert Einstein called it the eighth wonder of the world, which is compound interest. So to make it very simple, because it's a lot of numbers here, it just means I invest a little bit, I make some interest or gains on it. The following year, I'm going to make interest on the interest I made last year, right?
On that amount that's already accrued.
Exactly, right. So that just continues to grow and grow. So a very simple example. If I put in $1,000 at the age of 20 for someone very young, and let's just say, 12% is kind of high, but the stock market has done that the past...
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, it's wishful thinking, but it's actually done that if you look at it for the past
Right.
30, 40 years. At 12%, if you wait for 30 years, you put nothing else in, and just that 1,000 continues to accrue compound interest, you'll have about $150,000 30 years later.
Wow.
And all you put in is 1,000, right?
That's a great return on investment.
Exactly, right? But it's something that you put away and you didn't do anything. Now, obviously, it is to a certain degree wishful thinking. You'll have your ups and downs. But when we look at the history of the stock market, even with the 2000 tech bubble, 2008 crisis, we still see those times of returns if you're looking long term. And kind of coming back to retirement, I always hear this a lot. So I'm a wealth manager. I have my wealth management company, and then Art of Thinking Smart write for Midweek and have the blog artofthinkingsmart.com. And because this was such a big issue, I started artofsmartmoney.com. And I'm offering a lot of this stuff for free because I really believe if people make smarter financial decisions, then our entire families, communities are better off. And one thing to note, the recent study came out that Americans are worth a third less than we were in 2007. In 7 years, we have not gained back what we were worth in 2007. And a lot of it is we weren't making the smartest decisions.
Okay.
And even though people are saying, well, you know what, we're back at the same level of number of jobs that we had in 2007, the problem is that 3.6 or 4 million jobs that we gained back are all part-time, are all
Yes.
temporary jobs,
Yes.
not the good high-paying jobs.
Full times, right?
Right, and that's an issue because when we're looking at investing and we're looking at finances, how are we going to really plan for retirement?
You're barely making it from paycheck to
Exactly,
paycheck.
right. And that's why I always, instead of just looking at it from the investment side, it's also looking at the income side, right? And
The reality.
The reality behind it. And it's a matter of many people will have to find ways of adding to their income, and it's creating new ways of making money. 30 years ago, my grandparents' generation, you got one job, 30 years in a pension.
You stayed with
You
it,
stayed
right?
with it. And there's a recent study showing that millennials born 1977 to 1997 are staying in a job only 2 to 2.5 years.
Yes.
Those that are...
If even that.
If even that.
Truly.
And so that means the average millennial, and even those, part of the baby boomers are staying 3 to 5 years in a
Right.
job now.
Right.
That means you're going to have 15 career changes in your life.
Yes.
So what do you do if you're not going to stay at one company? And so one of the things that we kind of see is if you live to the age of 65,
Okay.
there is a 25% chance you will live to the age of 90 and plus, right? So 1 out of
okay.
4. If you are married, it goes up even higher. So people who are married live longer than people who are single. It's
Really?
interesting, yeah.
Really?
Very interesting, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very interesting. So here's the issue. Let's say you decide to retire at 62 and you live till 95,
Okay.
right? Most people will spend more time in retirement than they will have working, right? 30 plus years. So if you think about it, I think the greatest risk that people face today isn't market risk where they're losing money in the stock market, or even job risk where they're losing job because you could figure ways around it. Is longevity risk. Is people outliving the money that they've saved and outliving, right, the Social Security that they're going to get.
Very true.
And Social Security was, done in FDR administration in the 30s and 40s, right? And
We'll talk more about the Social Security in the second half.
Well, yeah.
For now, let's talk about the retirement income and how do you make sure that you have enough?
Right.
What you're going to need.
And the first thing I want to say is a lot of people feel as though, oh, you know what, I'm too late. I should have done this before. And I always tell people that the best time to invest may have been in the past. But the second best time to invest is right now. Today is to start.
So even somebody who is in their 40s
Sure.
or 50s even, and you're thinking, okay, maybe I have another 10, 15 more years before I technically retire. Can they still do things?
They can still do that. And the government has created some investment, what we call vehicles. Investment. It's not an investment type, but it's an investment account, and they're called qualified accounts. So using more jargon here. And
no, but we have to know what
right.
they're called.
And it's a qualified retirement account.
Okay.
And some may have a 401k at the work.
Okay.
Some have profit sharing plans at the work. If you work for a nonprofit or school, it's called a 403b. And for those that may do this on their own, it's also called an IRA,
right.
individual retirement account. And there's two different types, a Roth and a traditional. And I go into this more in depth on artersmartmoney.com where people can do this because this will take hours if I went through all this. But the bottom line is there are different types, and you can open one of those immediately and just start putting money in there. Even
Is there a minimum to start it?
There is no minimum to start. Usually the minimums are put on the company that you go to.
Okay,
right?
okay.
But if a company...
But you can research other companies.
Right, you can do that. And so, but there is a maximum.
Okay.
Right? So the maximum for IRAs are... Traditional and Roth are $5,500 a year.
Okay.
If you're over the age of 50, the government has allowed you to do a catch-up where you can put in $1,000 more. So you can put in $6,500. So even if you're 50 and you say, I'm not going to retire for 10 years, you could still put in $6,500 a year. Now that can seem a lot for somebody to just say, well, I don't have that. Well, you can do what's called dollar cost averaging. And what dollar cost averaging is that you're just putting in money per month, little by little. So you can put in $500 a month. I guess if you take $6,500 divided by 12, right? And then you could put that in per month. And that's a good way where if you don't have the $6,500 to put it up in front or $5,500, and then you're just averaging it out. That's what we call dollar cost averaging.
What if somebody says, I'm barely making ends meet and all I have is $50 a month? Can I do that?
You can still do that too. And $50 a month.
And then the time factor falls.
The time factor is really big. Now, there's two ways that we look at retirement income or saving for retirement. And I know a lot of people, especially, there are about 7,000 financial advisors in the state of Hawaii alone. And there's insurance people, everything like that. And we are, in some cases, and you have to figure out is how do we get paid? Are we getting paid by an hourly or a fee or a commission by selling a product? And the reason I say it's very important is that if you're taking advice from a salesperson who's just trying to sell you a commission, you have to just kind of be careful on the advice that you get. And when
he's looking out for himself
exactly
too.
Right, it's a conflict of interest.
Right.
And I used to be that type. I moved over to what's called an RIA model, Registered Investment Advisor. We are under different governing standards where we have to act in the best interest of the client, and we can't take a commission. Right. Cannot. Right. And for investment types like that. So and if we do, because sometimes investments work out that way, we have to disclose it and saying this is how much we're getting, and you have to approve of it, right? It's important, right? And again, I think it's important on how you're getting advice. If someone's teaching you to become wealthy and financially independent, then you want to make sure that the person you're getting advice from is also wealthy and financially independent.
Right. They know what they're talking about.
Yeah, because I'm wondering, if you want to build your own house, are you going to take advice from somebody who's never built one before, but is selling you, those products to do so, right? That's why it's always very important on making sure that the advice you get is very good. Now, there's two types of advice that I always see out there, and majority of it, and most financial advisors or commission salespeople are about selling insurance or investment products that they get a commission. Some of them are good, and you need some sort of investment products. But there's a second one that I have been pushing more recently, especially after the 2008 crisis. Because you said it, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
You can't save anymore,
No.
right? So there's only two other ways that you could get more money. One is you go to your boss and say, give me a raise, right?
And he says,
Right? He'll laugh at you, or a promotion. Or the second other way is you find alternative sources of making more money.
Right, right.
And in today's economy, I believe that is almost a necessity if you are having difficulty making it. And we talked about this before, Hawaii is
Right,
expensive.
right.
If you're working a 7, 8, minimum wage, okay, even let's say $10 an hour,
Right.
it's difficult to make ends meet.
absolutely.
You like your job, you don't want to quit.
Especially if all you can work right now is part-time. They won't give you the 40 hours, you can only do 25.
Exactly. And so I have really, and part of the art of smart money is looked at ways of how do you make more money on the side
Right.
that doesn't conflict with your current
Yes.
job, where you could even sell things on Amazon, eBay. So simple like that, that
Okay.
people may think, well, it's too difficult. It's not. It's a matter of you could even just sell things that you're no longer using, take a picture of it, upload it,
But
and you
find
sell
a
it.
way to come in with the additional income.
Right.
Okay.
So you could set up e-commerce sites where, and the reason I'm talking about this as part of retirement income is that I have, worked with a lot of wealthy people. I've studied them. I've worked with experts in the industry, and the wealthy think differently, right? Instead of thinking about how much can I save, they think about how much more can I earn. Right? And here's the important thing to note. If I'm making $50,000 and I'm saving 10%, I'm saving $5,000. If I look at my financial plan and I realize I need to save more, right? Where can you cut corners? And sometimes, even if we want to look for the future, but we still want to enjoy life now, right? We don't want to we want to be able to give our
It's so
children.
tight that you can't even go out to dinner.
Right, and you want to be able to give your children, family members, things that they need that maybe you didn't have growing up.
Right.
That's part of what a
Right.
parent says.
Right.
And so if you need to save more but you can't, what can you do? And so that's why I think it's very important that people, even in their 50s and 60s, right? And I love the story of Colonel Sanders for Kentucky Fried Chicken. Right?
Yes.
He did not start KFC until he was in his mid to late 60s. People don't know that, right?
Right.
There are a lot of people that hit it big, but they didn't hit it big until they were in their 50s and 60s. And if you're living to 90, 95, and with medical technology, we are becoming even if we're not living the healthiest lifestyle, there are ways that we can continue to have the optimal amount of energy and health and wellness that we need, even if we're retired, to figure out other ways to supplement the income. And again, that's another show in itself.
Well, I was just going
right.
to say, we've got about 15 seconds in
Sure,
this first
sure.
half, but there's so much more that they can see
Absolutely.
on your blog.
Right, Art
So
of
go
Smart
there.
Money, everything's for free.
Good.